Hello, I'm Daniel. I want to talk to you today about the difference between reaction and response. Reaction and response. So, often in life, when we have any kind of experience or sensation, we immediately react. We can react to things without thinking or deciding how to respond. And by react, I mean, of course, doing something, but also sometimes our reaction is a feeling comes up. A feeling comes up or judgments come up. Those are reactions as well. We may not think of those as reactions, but they are. And these things come up without us thinking or deciding how to respond or weighing the benefits and weaknesses of having a particular reaction. No, they just happen. We're on autopilot. And these autopilot responses just sort of happen. So sometimes things bother us because we expect them to. So if I'm annoyed by crowds and I know I'm going to go to a crowded place, I can be annoyed before I even get there, even though nothing has happened to cause that response in me. Just my expectation is setting me up for being irritated, being in a bad place, right? And that sort of thing can happen to us all the time. And if you've ever met someone who reminds you of someone else, then maybe you can sort of know what I'm talking about there too. If someone reminds us of someone else, we can make all sorts of assumptions about them. We can immediately judge them, especially if they remind us of someone we don't like. We can immediately judge them and think bad things about them just without any reason, without anything happening to cause that. And that can happen to us a lot. So if we stop and pay attention, if we learn how to just be with what's happening and kind of control our reactions a little bit, then we may have a totally different feeling. We may come to different actions in response to the things that happen. Sometimes we don't even know where our reactions come from. And if we can learn to have a moment of pause in between stimulus and response, then that's where there's a lot of freedom. That's where there's a lot of freedom, because what this all represents is not being in control of ourselves. Not being in control of how we respond to the world around us. We can choose how to respond to things instead of being on autopilot all the time. That's what I'm talking about by response. It's where something happens and I decide what I'm going to do. I decide how I feel about it, and I decide what I'm going to do. I measure the situation rather than just thing happens, boom, I'm irritated, right? It's where we have that moment, and that is what some of what we're getting in our learning how to grow in our mindfulness practice is to see our train of thought and to see the way we respond to things and to learn how our brain works and then sort of learn how to cultivate this gap in between stimulus and response so that we can just take a minute, especially because when we're on autopilot, a lot of the time we don't make the best decisions. We don't react in the best way. So having that gap is really helpful. So that's what I wanted to say today. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Have a good day.